Mindfulness of the present moment while interpreting. In this exercise, we will do a combination of simultaneous interpreting practice with a mindfulness exercise to become aware of our bodily experience while interpreting, and to practice how to accept whatever arises with gentleness and kindness. To begin with, notice how your body feels before we do anything. Notice what your mental and emotional states are before we begin. Notice if there are any tensions in your body. You will simultaneously interpret the following extract from a TED Talk by former President Jimmy Carter.
Best example I have is a cartoon in the New Yorker a couple of years ago. This little boy is looking up at his father. He says, "Daddy, when I grow up, I want to be a former president." Well, I have had a great blessing as former president because I've had an access that very few other people in the world have ever had to get to know so many people around this whole universe. Not only am I familiar with the 50 states in the United States, but also my wife and I have visited more than 145 countries in the world, and the Carter Center has had full-time programs in 80 nations on Earth. And a lot of times when we go into a country, we not only meet the king or the president, but we also meet the villagers who live in the most remote areas of Africa. So our overall commitment at the Carter Center is to promote human rights.
Pay attention to the bodily state after this brief interpretation exercise, and bring acceptance to whatever changes you may have noticed or not noticed. In the next round, aside from interpreting, you will also pay attention to how the air comes out through your words, as speaking is a type of exhalation. Pay attention to the air your words use as you interpret.
And knowing the world as I do, I can tell you without any equivocation that the number one abuse of human rights on earth is strangely not addressed quite often is the abuse of women and girls. There are a couple of reasons for this that I'll mention to begin with. First of all is a misinterpretation of religious scriptures, holy scriptures, in the Bible, Old Testament, New Testament, Quran, and so forth. And these have been misinterpreted by men who are now in the ascendant positions in the synagogues and the churches and in the mosque. And they interpret these rules to make sure that women are ordinarily relegated to a secondary position with men compared to men in the eyes of God.
In addition to interpreting, you paid attention to the air your words used while interpreting, without trying to change anything, just noticing, giving acceptance to what is. Now, next time, you will pay attention to whatever emotions may arise while interpreting. And if no emotions appear, also just notice that.
In some countries, many countries, when a child is born as a girl, very soon in her life, her genitals are completely cut away by a so-called cutter who has a razor blade and in a non-sterilized way, and they remove the exterior parts of a woman's genitalia.
And notice what the experience was like to focus your attention and action to what you were interpreting. If the feeling is now overwhelming, try putting your hand on top of your chest at the level of your heart to offer yourself some kindness and a sense of ease by noticing its warmth. Since the vagus nerve crosses this area, this is soothing for most people. Like a hug. Very good. Finally, you're going to return your attention to your emotions as you interpret, and if any of those emotions that we label as uncomfortable appear, just let them be while offering them some kindness in the shape of imagining a light coming out of your hand at the level of your chest, bringing in kindness as you continue interpreting.
And then sometimes, in more extreme cases, but not very rare cases, they sew the orifice up so the girl can just urinate or menstruate. And then later when she gets married, the same cutter goes in and opens the orifice up so she can have sex. This is not a rare thing, although it's against the law in most countries. In Egypt, for instance, more than 91% of all the females that live in Egypt today have been sexually mutilated in that way. In some countries, it's more than 98% of the women are cut that way before they reach maturity. This is a horrible affliction on all women that live in those countries.
And notice what this experience has been like for you. Perhaps you will notice that when, instead of running away from what is uncomfortable, we pay full attention to it with kindness and acceptance, even when our attention is divided because we're interpreting, the experience softens and becomes easier. Thank you very much for practicing.